so that you won't be
Local
importing
production.
All right, we're going in.
Okay, let's go in.
All right.
Let's go in.
In-depth analysis. No current affair. Freshly fresh. On Smooth 98.1.
Love music, love life. The analysis is about to get in depth. You're welcome to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's about a smooth breakfast, and weekdays from 7:30. What we do here on Smooth 98.1 is to help you to understand what's going on in the country and to bring our analysts who are going to give their take. But importantly, you also can share your thoughts on what's happening. So we'll be bringing to you some of the top stories from Nigerian dailies, and you can catch us on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun, and this morning I am joined by Lakunle. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. Good to be back again, second time this week, and Apple housing deficit and new houses and rent rates all over Nigeria.
I guess you have caught the Devoe bug. Well, that's it.
Yes, I have.
Joining us as well is Devoe Okorie. Good morning.
Good morning, world. Good morning, Lagos. Seun Lakunle, a cool, hungry nation, no exports.
Well, that said, we are going to get started with a matter of hunger and feeding. So taking this one from Vanguard. Nigeria spends 10 billion, sorry, not naira, dollars annually on agro imports, including wheat and fish. This is according to the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari. So Devoe, please take it away.
Well, honestly, this is a story that I missed the event. It took place in Lagos yesterday. It was organized by First Bank, the Agri and Exports Expo, where they invited several of the investment-based federal institutions that are supposed to be driving investment and export of Nigerian products to the world. And in this instance, they concentrated on agri exports. And as you know, agri exports contributes about 35% to the GDP, meaning it's an essential leg of our GDP in creating economic wealth and productivity for Nigeria. Now, the Minister of Agriculture, who was ably represented, that's Senator Kyari, did lay out some hard facts. And honestly, I myself, I wasn't up to date with some of these hard facts, which we actually need to understand. Because it's only when you understand the statistics or the position that you are informed as to what to do. Now, even though the article is a bit confusing because they stated that he said Nigeria spends over $10 billion annually importing food like wheat, rice, sugar, fish, and tomato paste. Okay? Let me break $10 billion because $10 billion to some people is we only hear this on TV, on radio, and say money now or that. $10 billion is equal to 16 trillion naira. Some people's calculator cannot even contain those zeros. That is what Nigeria is spending, different people are spending on bringing food into the country. And you now check what he now mentioned as to how much Nigeria makes from its exports, which is roughly less than $400 million. Let me convert that again. That's less than 10%, meaning you spend 16 trillion naira to bring in food, and you only make business out of the one you produce less than a trillion. Can you see that weight? We spend the bulk of our own hard-earned money, and we only make, if it's business, you've lost money. We only make up to less than a trillion. So this imbalance is the beginning of our problems and why, to a large extent, we are hungry. Now, let me also paint another picture. How is it that we're hungry? The bulk of Nigerian people cannot afford food. They don't eat 3 square meals, 2 square meals. These days, it's only those who have money that eat a square meal. Those who don't have, which are the majority, eat a meal today. The next meal is 2 days away. And yet we're spending 10 billion. So you can see that it's not that we don't have money, but the point is, first of all, that 10 billion is not coming from the bulk of Nigerians. Two, that money should have been reinvested into the country to expand and grow our capacity, because the minister went on to state, like I said, he stated hard facts that Nigeria is sitting on 85 million hectares of urban land, okay, or let's call it arable land. And with a population of youth, 70% of our population below the age of 35, which is almost over 100 million youths. You see, these are the gaps. You have the capacity in terms of employment to actually get these people busy. You also have one of the major fundamental requirements in driving agriculture, which many countries don't have. If you travel around the world, Japan does not have any known agricultural product that it can produce. There are many countries that have very bad land. If you throw a seed, mango, okra, it will not grow. Nigeria is blessed because we're around the equator. We have the River Niger, River Benue, and we have fertile lands, both north and south. Yet we're not able to optimize this. So this was one of the crux of this meeting that was being held, those sponsored by First Bank. And the point here is this: if we're able to get it right in terms of uh, food sovereignty, which was what he said the Bola Ahmed Shetima administration was trying to achieve. Food sovereignty means you have enough food for yourself. Not only do you have enough food for yourself, you command net exportation. So you can't begin to start discussing exports when you've not even gotten enough for yourself. These are all the major gaps in these places, which I always say that Nigerian state governors should be flogged. Flogged. When I said flogged, flog these state governors who literally are the custodians of this land. Why did they give you the Land Use Act 1978, or what is it? And yet you're not able to convert this power, this authority that I own the land into, that's why they call it commonwealth. If you fly into South Africa, from just when you're landing, you will see vast allocations of land with different crops, livestock, etc. Vast. That is, you have to be flying over to get that aerial view. That's Nigeria has the same capacity. Why are we not? Why are we not optimizing it? Why is every time the government, either at the federal level or at the state level, they, in quotes, engage in agricultural schemes, they end up being uh, 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 pockets, they end up being slush funds for various politicians all the time. So it's not as if we've not had great ideas. Almost every idea that comes on board, they end up being slush funds. Even the 2000 tractors that the federal government brought in, they need to put an eye on them, because I'm afraid that within the next 2 years, those tractors will disappear. So we should understand our problems. So in this instance, this does not require prayer. God has given you the land that doesn't even require much fertilizer. He has given you the manpower. The $10 billion is confirmation that there's fund available to actually go to work. So what is missing is executive will and the capacity of Nigerians to do the right thing. Spend your money in the right places, and you will have enough food. How is it that countries like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, that they sit on sand? Nothing grows in the Middle Eastern countries. For those who have traveled to Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, you can't grow anything there. Yet those countries are net exporters of food. Yet those countries have cheap. You can eat yafu, all you like. Yet we that have the arable land were the ones importing. Sean, there's something wrong with our head. Let me say it on national radio. There's something wrong with our head. People who live on sand have excess food. We that live on arable land that does not require much fertilizer were the ones importing heavy amounts of food. Like I said, Nigerian citizens, you now understand the problem. when I say hold your government accountable, flog them, be it PDP, be it APC, AFGA, whichever party, flog them. There is no Nigerian state that does not have the capacity to turn itself into not just a net producer, but a net exporter. I rest my case.
You can join the conversation by sending your thought messages to WhatsApp 0809 no 0911 999 0981. Again, 0911 999 0981. If you're sending a message for the first time, please kindly include your name and your location so that we know who's talking to us. Lakunle, I'm going to skip to this one from Daily Post. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission has hinted on the possible increment of salaries of President Bola Tinubu, Vice President Kassim Shettima, senators and ministers. And according to him, that the responsibilities and economic challenges have changed since 2008 when the current salary structure came into play. So things need to change as well. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so the president deserves to be paid appropriately. The vice president so same, the Senate so same, and the law has empowered the revenue mobilization, fiscal and physical control or commission, whatever the see, a fiscal commission is empowered by law to do this at specific and regular intervals. So by law, this increment is overdue, right? So there's nothing illegal in the concept of what the RMAFC have said, right? And that's why it stops. Now, let's look at the effect of that on the rest of us and on the beneficiaries and the rest of us. Okay, so the president today lives in a free house. Yeah, he drives free car. He has no children that is going to school. Let's even assume he has. Probably will be paid out of pocket. Yeah, many things that the president needs to spend money on, the state takes care of it today. So you will argue that why does he need to be paid so much money? That's one. Two, in the reality of where we are today, here we are, we just spoke about a problem. We spend 10 and 16 trillion naira to import food. Yeah. My perspective of it was that I went to check what our budget is for 2025. Our projected revenue for the year is 40 trillion naira. Yeah, that's like we're spending a quarter of our projected revenue, the money government is supposed to make. People are spending a quarter of it on food alone. Devoe just spoke to, there's a story here about housing, where we're talking about the FHA building 110 houses and calling everybody to come and launch. And these houses are not affordable to people to buy or to rent or to live in. Yeah. And we are talking of insecurity. There are so many things that we need to spend money on that will be justifiable. Even if the law says, President, this is your new salary, the morality of it should not permit them to bring this to the fore at this time. If we were making more than enough money that we needed, okay, so I'll go back to 1973 when Nigeria was making more money than we needed. We splashed cash around. We gave people increased salary. Udoji Awards of 1973. Many of us were not even born at that time. But we heard the story. We hear what it is. You see, the problem that we seem to want to solve first are always those problems that are not necessarily important or have consequential effect on our being. And we keep doing this over and over again. Yes, the law says you do it. But you see, laws are made for men, not men for laws. I understand the RMFAC people. They want to do their job. They want to be seen as doing what the president wants and all that. Peradventure, how many of the state governors in Nigeria, despite all the money we hear they get today, are paying the minimum wage of 77,000 naira. How many? We've had many of them say that they can't afford it. But here you are. The man who has not been paid the 77,000 naira hears that president's salary wants to be increased. He can never be happy, can never be dutiful at his job. You want the policeman not to collect bribe on the road, not to extort money from people. But he hears that the president is earning new salary, his own salary that is earning today. He has not even collected the one for April. We're in August. I don't know if that is true, but I'm just using that as an example. You want the civil servant to be dutiful at his job. His salary is not coming as at when due, but he hears that the president wants to collect additional salary. He hears that the senator that he carries his bag, that he does bag man for, that he follows around, he's collecting new salary. How do you want him to be a proper security person, though the person is securing? So those are the issues that we need to examine. Like Devoe said, it seems like there's something fundamentally not correct with our DNA as a people, that we seem to prioritize the unimportant things. Yes, the law says you can do it, but I mean, please now, let us even look at ourselves. Let's look at the problems that we need to solve. Let's solve those problems. Then, when you have solved those problems, you can reward yourselves appropriately as you want. But let's solve those problems first. That's my take.
Thank you. WhatsApp line 0911 999 0981. Again, 0911 999 0981. Rexy from Surulere says, we need to drive it home by harping on the need for our governors to set up large-scale agriculture schemes that employs cooperatives to grow various crops suitable for their land. It's really not rocket science. And speaking of that, before I take the next story, I think I should just quickly take your thoughts on, especially since we're talking about this, the Lagos state government launching the Produce for Lagos program and the 500 billion offtake guarantee fund. I'm not sure I've heard your thoughts about it. So, Devoe, would you like to quickly say some words about this in connection to what we're discussing?
The what? Sorry, come again.
I'm talking about the Lagos state government's Produce for Lagos program and the 500 billion uptake. Yeah.
Yes, that was a private-public partnership, which is commendable by the Lagos state government in trying to see how what they're doing is they want to use supply chain metrics to actually create a scenario or some level of insurance that anytime there's a either upturn or downturn in the markets, either due to local issues by flooding, anytime there's all this perennial floods, it scatters the agricultural projections and the harvest. Anytime there's what do you call it, global issues, Nigeria, especially Lagos, that's, as they've said, takes up to about 60% of the consumption, suffers. So that's 500 billion scheme is to enable Lagos begin to more or less begin to become a storage house of food in Nigeria. So they're going to use all that money to be buying up both livestock and crop and storing it and processing it in Lagos, so that anytime there's a hit on the market for one reason or the other, and one of the ones that happened recently was during the Salah, because the Mokwa Bridge in Kwara State collapsed because of flooding, over 20 trucks containing 400 million worth of tomatoes, pepper, and I can't remember, that people were to use to make stew for the Salah celebration, was held up. And because of that, tomato, onions, and pepper, yes, the price skyrocketed 3 to 4 times in Lagos. So I'm just making it simple so that people understand why the Lagos state took up that measure. Every other state should do their own.
All right,
I think that Lagos State has led the way in a lot of things, particularly the Commissioner for Agriculture in Lagos, Miss Abi Olusonya. She is led the way. She's shown us that these things are actually possible with things she's done. I have a theory in my mind. Niger State is about 77,000 square kilometers. There are 4 million people. That's about 5 to 6 per square kilometer. If we relocate everybody in Niger State, for example, and say that, look, this landmass called Niger State today want to turn it to a farmland entirely, is a tall dream. Yeah, I'm just dreaming. Yeah, we can feed the entire African continent from that 77,000 square kilometers land only, right? Let's governor of Kogi wake up one morning and say, I want to turn my state into a exchange hub in transportation logistics, that everything coming from the north stops here, another one coming from the south stops here, they exchange what they are carrying, they go back and forth. I mean, crazy ideas are there in people's minds. We just need the government to put the processes in place for people to be able to take update, to turn these ideas into actionable practices. We would not suffer these things as we are suffering it today. We need creative people in government. We need people who are ready to walk their talk in government.
Thank you. Before I go to the story about the Nigerian army accusing or being accused of detaining community leaders for 1 year without trial, I'll take the messages, starting with this one from Gilbert Musa from Festac. It says, on the decline in agricultural export and increased importation of food items to Nigeria, this trend was what Operation Feed the Nation was set up in May 1976 to address. As your in-house analyst, Mr. Devoe said, state governors are not doing the needful to implement basic agricultural policies. Insecurity is the latest challenge to any brilliant concept in Nigeria today. And going to Lanre from Lagos Island, he says, if we have minimum wage, we must also have maximum wage for our political office holders. On the issue of feeding, something is wrong with our head, truly. Well, with what's being done in Lagos State, I guess some heads are working. Going to the one from Joseph Mania, is this not daylight criminality? How insensitive can the RMFAC at this time be, contemplating reviewing upward the salaries and benefits of elected politicians and appointed officers? How do we define wickedness? The country is in dire straits situations where the citizens are facing all sorts: higher power tariff, transportation, accommodation, joblessness, dwindling health sector, etc. Yet an agency has the audacity to air such nonsense. Worst of the matter is that few civil servants are earning a minimum of 70,000 naira. Well, it's mind-boggling how a presidential aspirant can buy a ticket for 100 million naira, but we hear earns 1.5 million naira monthly. Please let it make sense to us. May God help us. And finally, from Mr. Ajayi Olonilua, the Agriculture Minister should rally the State Commissioner of Agriculture into producing a blueprint for massive agricultural production across the country, not just throwing money at some seminars that will yield nothing. So now to that story from Premium Times about Nigerian army accused of detaining community leaders for 1 year without trial. Devoe?
Yes, I've actually been looking for this story, and I'm happy it came up. This is an update on that massacre that took place initially with police. About 19 police were killed, and then the military came in into that oil region where a lot of export and crude oil bunkering was taking place. Okay, this was way back in about 2024, right? Now, at the end, what we heard was about, I think 12 or 13 soldiers were killed. And immediately, you know how it normally happens. Once we start hearing that somebody's killing soldiers in Nigeria, the military will actually react. And most times it's not in a nice way. At that time, I think it was during the Buhari administration. I need to confirm. Or no. It was in this administration. They went down on more or less an exercise to address the breakdown in law and order that was taking place in the Okwama and the Okolobia communities. That was somewhere in Uheli, Delta states. And just to paint the picture properly, because here what they're saying is that the people that the soldiers arrested have not been released till date, those from the Okwama society. The problem that happened then was that the oil bunkering that was taking place was supposed to have been addressed by the soldiers who were there. But some of them alleged that the soldiers were actually party to the bunkering on the Okwoloba side. So when the fisticuff started, it was alleged from the military that it was the Kwama chiefs and leaders that were responsible for the killing of their soldiers, hence the invasion that took place, the arrest of those leaders. And if you remember at that time, because some of them are asking that, how come they haven't taken the matter to court, which is the right thing to do? The military is not the court of law in Nigeria. But if you remember in that season, I think they got a go ahead from the presidency and went on with that invasion. And at that time, what we understood to have happened was that national security trumped the rule of law. I repeat myself, national security trumped the rule of law, which was an issue Buhari had a problem with, because that should never happen. The rule of law stands at the top. Every decision should be made based on the rule of law and the Constitution. But at that point, when the presidency gave them a go-ahead, national security trumped the rule of law, and the military was given an opportunity to do what they wanted to arrest the situation. Now, just to make it clear, even the governor of Delta State was not allowed into that territory when the military was taking their exercise, for those who have forgotten. So if you're asking the governor to intervene, this one passing head, right? And unfortunately, the military has still detained those officers. What I would say is this: we're not a military state anymore, but I think the presidency, in the same fashion that they gave them a go-ahead, needs to wade into the matter and ensure that there is a justified resolution on it and not what is currently taking place. Clearly, what is taking place is against the rule of law in Nigeria, is illegal, and should not be allowed to sustain itself. Yes, maybe you gave, just like a state of emergency, you gave a slight pardon for some things to be done, but it's not, the temporary scenario is not meant to be a permanent situation.
All right, thank you very much. Again, you can join the conversation 0911-999-0981, 0911-999-0981. From the Vanguard comes this one. The federal government has announced a nationwide strategy to address Nigeria's housing deficit. You already touched on this a little bit, Lakunle, so we can go fully into it.
Okay, so the Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Alhaji Ahmed Dangiwa, said this at the inauguration of the FHA Express View Estates and FHA complex in Lugbe, Abuja yesterday. Okay, so you know that whether we like it or not, Nigeria suffers approximately about some 80 million housing has about some 80 million housing deficit as at date, right? And then you look at one of the reasons we have your Land Use Act was to empower the governor to be able to make land available for agriculture, for housing, for this and that and that. So the federal government is saying that they have approached some states, and to date, only 20 of 37 states have approved land for such estates to be built in and around. But guess what? This one that was built in Abuja had only 110 units. How much is it going to be sold for? This report does not say, but I can hazard a guess because of what I know of rents in Abuja today. What they call a one room self-con in Abuja costs you about ₦1 million minimum to rent per annum. So you can imagine then that how much. Of course, this will suppose is going to be cheaper, yeah, because it's government. But 110 units, is it enough for us to boast about that we have done something? No, but we have done something, which is good. I wish we can replicate this 110 in 37 in each of the 777 local governments in Nigeria. As they said, that would have been 77,400 housing units that would have been provided in a year. And then if we did that for the next 10 years, every year, the effect of that on things like employment, urbanization, and so on and so forth will be a multiplier effect on all of these things. Again, like I said earlier, much of the things that we need to do in Nigeria, we need people who are creative. We need people who can walk their talk. Now, this has been done. I look at a state like Lagos, for example, short of land, short of land. But instead for us to build multi-story communities, we allow people to build so much of self-houses, bungalows, flats, and that and that. And this does not take care of the 20 million people in Lagos. So, of course, there's pressure on them. I look at a state like Ogun that is just next door to Lagos. All those places between Bega and Mowe and Shagamu interchange. What is the government of Ogun doing to make those kind of places the center of residential houses in multi-story formats that would probably help Lagos to ease its own pressure of these things? So those are the kind of things that we expect that should happen. But you see, we say a lot of things about this. We'd rather leave this land use acts to for revenue purposes for government, and not do the one that will even be beneficial. Okay, so we fashioned our governance structure after the British. There's something they call the council flats in the United Kingdom. Do we have an equivalent of council flats in Nigeria that you move in with your shirts and trousers, and then when you are done, you leave the place? Do we have something equivalent to that here? I don't think we do. Those are the kind of things that we should be thinking of to make housing available for everybody across the strata of the economy.
Thank you. Well, just point out that according to a report from Business Day in March, they said that the housing unit deficit is standing at 28 million. So we're not as terrible as 80 million yet. So we still have hope. And hopefully these things address things.
Yep.
All right, finally, I'll take this message from Oluwaseun. Oluwaseun says, haven't you all heard? If them explain Nigeria for you and you understand, them not explain them well. And it's a fact. The things we do and how we act defies logic and normal civilized human behaviors. There's an estate in Ogun State where a relation lives with lots of space because most of the owners haven't yet developed their lands. Corn is cultivated everywhere, yams and many more by the people already on the land, and the land isn't even fertile. We have no reason to be hungry in all honesty, but even farmers and those with access to land can't farm in peace or successfully because of problems like herdsmen attacks, lack of farming inputs, like fertilizer seeds, then bandits and more. Heaven help us all. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning. We go again, and hopefully the next time we have you on, the stories won't be as draining as this, because we just need a break. By the way, please go on.
So much to say about many of all of these things that we discussed this morning, that 30 minutes are not actually enough, especially about that housing. And we need to dedicate more time at some other times, at some other platforms, for Nigerians to discuss these things clearly.
Thank you. Are you still on Twitter or X? I know Lakunle is at Lakunle70 on Twitter, but Devoe, are you still on social media?
No.
All right, so I guess you can't catch Devoe anywhere, but you can always see the tweet and interact with Lakunle on Twitter at Lakunle70. You can catch up with this conversation on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. At 8:15, it will be the talks about sports on the locker room.
The headline. The stories.
Thank you.
Can we see you next week? Okay, no, you are not here next week now.
Yeah.
Ayo is back.
No, I wish he was back next week. 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks. Oh,
yeah, it's 2 weeks. I mean, having to wake up every morning, it's like the worse the news, the more heartbreaking the news, the more I don't know, the higher it is on the headline. So I don't even know the word to use. It's just annoying. It's like there's nothing good, and I find it draining.
Don't worry, we'll be all right.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. We'll get by. I mean,
all right. Bye.
Provide, so we will.